A shy waitress tried to hide her scar on her face, until a millionaire took her hand and said, "You're beautiful." The morning air was crisp, but inside Rosie's diner, the clink of coffee cups and the smell of bacon gave a cozy warmth to the early risers. In the corner, near the window where the light hit just right, stood Eliza, quiet, reserved, and always with her chestnut hair swept over the right side of her face. To most patrons, she was simply the shy waitress with a soft smile and eyes that rarely met theirs. But to those who looked a little closer, the sadness in her gaze hinted at a deeper story, one that she kept hidden along with the long scar that traced her cheek like a cruel reminder of a night that changed everything. Eliza hadn't always been so reserved. There was a time, not too long ago, when her laughter filled the air and her dreams lit up rooms brighter than any chandelier. She had wanted to sing on stages, travel the world, live boldly. But a car accident 3 years ago, caused by a drunk driver on a rainy night, left more than shattered glass. It left her with a jagged scar and a soul stitched together with quiet heartbreak. Since then, mirrors became enemies, and compliments felt like lies. She took the job at Rosie's because it was tucked away from the bustling city and the regulars were kind. They didn't ask questions. They liked their coffee hot, their eggs runny, and their conversations light. It was safe, predictable. And for Eliza, that was enough. Until the man with the tailored coat and warm eyes walked in one rainy afternoon. He didn't look like he belonged in a place where the menus were laminated and the seats squeaked when you shifted. His hair was silver at the temples, and he carried himself with quiet confidence. But he smiled easily, the kind that wasn't practiced or forced. He took a seat at Eliza's section, gently folding his coat beside him. "Coffee, please. Black. And maybe your recommendation for something sweet," he asked, his eyes locking with hers for a beat too long. Eliza nodded quickly, tucking her hair further around her scar. "Of course," she murmured, barely above a whisper. She brought him a slice of homemade cherry pie, her personal favorite, though she never said so. As she set the plate down, her hand trembled slightly. He noticed, but said nothing. Instead, he took a bite, closed his eyes in exaggerated delight, and said, "That's possibly the best pie I've had in years." A small smile tugged at her lips. "Glad you like it." He became a regular over the next few weeks. Always sitting at the same table, always asking for her section. Sometimes he brought a book. Other times, he simply watched the rain slide down the windowpane with a distant look. They exchanged names eventually. His was Andrew. He told her he was, in between things, which she understood to mean he was either lost or searching. Maybe both. They talked in snippets. Weather, books, music. Never anything too deep. But Eliza noticed how he never stared too long, never winced at her scar, never treated her like she was broken glass. And that, in itself, felt like a kind of magic. One evening, the diner was nearly empty. A storm had rolled in, fierce and unrelenting, and the lights flickered overhead. Eliza was wiping down a table when Andrew approached, hesitant but determined. "Would you join me for a coffee?" he asked, motioning to his usual booth. She hesitated. Her shift was almost over. And something about the way he looked at her, like she was someone worth knowing, made her stomach flip in a way it hadn't in years. She slid into the booth, cautiously. The hum of the storm outside seemed to cocoon them in their own little world. "You know," he said softly, "you're the only reason I keep coming back here." Eliza blinked. "You like the pie," she replied, trying to deflect. He chuckled. "The pie is good. But it's you. You have a quiet strength, Eliza. You walk like someone who's been through a storm and kept going." She looked down, her fingers tightening around the mug. "I don't know about that." "I do," he said, gently reaching across the table. "And I know a little about scars." She looked up then, surprised. He slowly rolled up his sleeve, revealing a long, pale scar that ran from his wrist to his elbow. I got this in a fire when I was 20. Saved a kid from a burning building. Everyone called me a hero. But I hated the attention. All I saw was a reminder of the pain, the fear. It took me years to stop hiding it. Eliza stared, eyes wide. For the first time, she felt the walls inside her shift. I thought no one could ever look at me again and see anything but this, she said, her hand brushing the hair over her cheek. Andrew leaned in, and with a quiet boldness, gently took her hand. I see you. The whole you. And you're beautiful, Eliza. The words hung in the air, tender and true. Tears welled in her eyes, unbidden. No one had called her that in years, not since before the accident, before the world taught her to hide. You don't have to believe me now, he continued, but one day, you will. In the weeks that followed, something changed. Eliza started tying her hair back. Just a little at first, one loose strand tucked behind her ear. Then a ponytail. Then, one day, she came to work with her scar fully visible, head held a little higher. Customers noticed, but not in the way she feared. One complimented her earrings. Another asked about her skincare routine. A child smiled at her and said she looked like a princess. The old Eliza, fearless, bright, daring, was starting to flicker back to life. Then, one morning, Andrew didn't come in. Not that day, or the next. A week passed. Eliza felt a quiet ache settle in her chest. She didn't know his last name, didn't know where he lived. He had just disappeared. A month later, a letter arrived at Rosie's diner. It was addressed to her, written in crisp handwriting on heavy cream paper. Eliza. I'm sorry for vanishing. I had to leave for Europe unexpectedly for a business matter. You see, I run a foundation for trauma survivors, something I started after my own journey. Watching you rediscover your light reminded me of why I began it in the first place. I've left a little something behind for you. Consider it a seed for whatever dreams you once shelved. Music. Travel. Or maybe, just a cafe of your own, where every corner sings with courage. You helped me find hope again. Yours. Andrew. Enclosed was a check, with more zeros than Eliza had ever seen. Her knees buckled. Rosie caught her just in time. Tears streamed freely, but this time, they weren't born of sorrow. They were of disbelief, of gratitude, of the gentle power of being truly seen. A year later, a new cafe opened in the city, Eliza's Place. On the menu, the cherry pie was marked as a house favorite. The staff were all survivors. Of burns, of heartbreak, of battles with themselves. And above the entrance hung a sign that read, "Scars tell stories. Come share yours." Eliza stood at the counter, radiant. Her hair was pulled back, her scar visible, unapologetic. And every time someone walked in, she smiled the same soft, kind smile that once captivated a man with silver at his temples. She never saw Andrew again. But his kindness echoed through every cup of coffee, every slice of pie, every soul that walked through her door and left a little lighter. Because one act of compassion, one sincere word, can change a life. And sometimes, the most beautiful things grow from the places we once tried to hide.